everybody, it's DJ Jazzy Cat back on the Chill Factor. Of course, it is Wednesday, live in the studio. She's got a lot of great stuff going on. And again, if you haven't gone over to check out her podcast, her YouTube channel, and much more, I want to welcome in Ann Canfield from Finding Strength. She's one of our wonderful sponsors here. Hey, Ann, how's it going?
It is going incredibly well, and I'm so excited because we get to talk about positive neuroplasticity.
Yay! I'm excited too.
Yeah, this is going to be a really great series, and the title of this podcast is called "Showers and Floods: Breaking Free from Negative Thought Patterns." And we're going to begin talking about water. So, Kathleen, do you drink a lot of water? Are you a water drinker?
And as a matter of fact, I have a blue mug in front of me filled with water as we speak.
I love that. I absolutely love that because water can be great for us. We need to drink water to stay healthy. We need it to clean things such as our bodies and our houses and our vegetables. And it helps for nature, for growing things outside. Water serves an amazing purpose in all of our lives. Who loves to sit on a porch and watch a spring shower? Do you ever do that, Kathleen?
Absolutely. It's very therapeutic.
Exactly, right? It's a beautiful thing. They even have these apps where you can literally set them to fall asleep to beautiful washing, a waterfall or something, which is amazing. However, as wonderful and as beautiful as water is, there also is a danger to water when we think of hurricanes and floods and tornadoes. You see, water could be a help or it could be a hurt. It even can be the enemy if you don't know how to swim and you fall into water. So water can be much like our thoughts, understanding that all thoughts can serve a purpose, and our need is to understand that purpose. And when we can control them, very similar to the fact that if we fell into a swimming pool and we know how to swim, water is an amazing thing, right? It's fantastic, and we have an amazing, wonderful time. But if there was a storm outside and there was very stormy seas and you fell into that, you might have a hard time navigating. And I say that because I know that there's sometimes this idea that says, well, I just always think so negatively. There's just nothing I can do. It's just the way that I am. Or the fact of thinking that negative thoughts are bad. And what we're going to talk about is the purpose and why those negative thoughts are there. Because, again, going back to that concept of water, hurricanes, there's a reason why we have that weather and on a grander scale, right? Kind of like even when they talk about fire, they talk about fires are awful, but sometimes they do control fires because it renews the earth. Have you ever heard of this?
Absolutely, I have. Yep. On the news, actually.
Exactly. So we're going to start with 3 topics today, and we're going to start with the concept of this built-in negativity bias that is built into every single one of us. And it serves a very important purpose. And here's what it is. Our brain's number one job is to keep us alive to see another day. That's our brain's number one job. To protect the body, to make us to survive. In order for it to do that every single situation that we go into, the first thing our brain does is it looks for threats. Is there a threat in my immediate environment that could harm me? And I know sometimes we think, but that doesn't make sense because there's no threat here. But you have to recall that from your brain's perspective, it has an incredible amount of associations and selective memories to ensure that it's doing its job well. So you might come into a place and think, oh, I'm feeling a little fearful right now. What's going on here? Because somebody gives you a glance from across the room and they look at you with an evil eye. and it sparks something in you. But your brain is thinking, wait a minute, hold on. I remember when somebody looked like that same way when you were 10 and they beat you up after school. And you don't really go through that process consciously, but your brain knows. So it kind of says, what do we do to protect ourselves? And Rick Hansen in Hardwiring Happiness gives this great illustration of paper tigers. He says, you go into a situation and it looks at things and says, is that a stick or is that a snake? And it's our job as a higher evolved human being to say, let me stop and let me say, is that a paper tiger or is that a real tiger? And we get to be able to make that choice. But here's the point. We have to consciously pause and make that choice and go through that process of questioning. Because again, that primal part of our brain, the amygdala, is going to go off and it's going to go in that freezer fight stage. And we want to talk about how can we overcome that. Going back to the idea of like our water example, if I don't know how to swim, I have two choices. I can either learn how to swim or I can avoid the water. And our brain's first thing might say, we should just avoid the water. Bad things could happen. Have you seen the news? Do you remember that news report you saw? Even the best swimmers, something bad can happen to them, and my thought is, instead of us avoiding those difficult moments, what we can do is we can learn how to swim. We can learn how to recognize it and see it for what it is and navigate our way so that we become more resilient. And that's a really important point, because the part about the resilience part, if anyone has seen the movie Naiad, it's about Diane Naiad, who tried 4 to 5 times as she swam from Cuba to the Florida Keys. The thing that's amazing about that story is she failed the first time. It was dangerous. It was hard. Everybody told her it shouldn't be done. It can't be done. She did it and she failed. But the goal was she got back up. She learned something. She grew from that experience and she got better next time. And we can do that when we think of what our thoughts are doing. We can learn from each experience and go, you know what? I hear you. There is some things I can avoid, but maybe I shouldn't avoid it. Maybe I can learn and be okay with seeing failure as feedback. I want you to imagine for a moment the very first human to see the ocean. And they're at the seashore and they start walking into the water. And all of a sudden, the ocean floor drops at a certain point and they have to swim. Can you picture that, Kathleen, in your mind's eye?
Yes, I have, and the water is coming up and around me as the floor falls down. Mm-hmm.
I want you to picture that, and I want you to picture that after the experience, the guy gets out of the water, he's going to post a sign on that beach. That sign is either going to say one of two things. It's either going to say, danger, do not go in the water. Or it's going to say, come see Jack to learn how to swim. And that's kind of the idea. So now that we kind of understand the negativity bias and its goal of that our brain is literally trying to protect us, but it's our job to say, hey, I hear you, brain. I know you're trying to protect me, but let me stop and let me ask some questions here for us to truly navigate what is the best course of action to what to do next. So point number 2 is the power of the pause. I want you to picture the scene. I'm at an event and someone who has the microphone for the event comes right up to me and says, hey, would you mind getting up and talking about Toastmasters? The challenge is I just joined Toastmasters and I don't feel confident in public speaking yet. I get this feeling of fear that whelms up in me. And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. This is bad. This is going to be bad. So point number 2 is I want us to think we need to pause. So when the amygdala fires and we're feeling like, this isn't going to work, this is bad, negative thoughts come in, we shouldn't do that, remember what happened last time, First thing we want to do is we want to take a time out on our brain. Literally could be seconds. Deep breath in, deep breath out. The minute that we do that, we are letting our brains know that we are going to lead of what happens next instead of our brain leading us. We're going to tell our brain it's time to take a time out. Let's take a deep breath here and take a moment. And there will be a podcast that I will be doing that's going to be about mindfulness and how do we do that as a reflection and to make it more natural for us. But we're going to pause. And point number 3 is we're going to feel the feeling and we're going to question the thought, because feelings are indicators. They're not dictators. I am feeling fear. Feeling is serving a purpose. And our brain is saying, hey, by the way, I don't know about this. Has anybody ever had this, Kathleen? Have you ever had this happen?
Oh, yeah, definitely. In different situations, many of different factors. Sure.
Exactly, right? Like we all have had this moment. We all know what it feels like to be like, I don't know about that. And again, that amygdala goes off and goes, well, I'm not sure if it's a threat. And here's the thing that's really awesome. When we recognize and ask ourselves a question, it actually releases serotonin and allows our brain to relax. And our brain gets fired up to gather information from all areas to answer the question you ask it. So when I'm feeling that fear, somebody says, hey, why don't you get up here and talk about Toastmasters? I'm feeling the fear. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be bad. I ask myself a question. Hey, remember, when was the last time when I did something like this and it turned out okay? And my brain's going to go back and it's going to look for that data and be like, oh yeah, that's right. I did a really great speech last week. It's going to be okay. I think I should get up and talk. The most important part is that we feel the feeling. We call it out for what it is, because feelings are indicators. They're not dictators, but they're indicating us something. And then the next question we do is we ask ourselves a question, because your brain is your best assistant. Ask the questions and your brain wants to help you find the answer. If you don't like the answer, or if it's not the answer you want, I have phenomenal news. You get to ask a better, different question. You get to ask a different question. You get to ask the question that's going to give you the information that you want or need to serve you. Because what you seek is what you will find. So if I'm feeling that fear, oh my gosh, you want to speak at Toastmasters? I think you should have a speak. And I'm like, I can't remember. Did this turn out well? What's a good time that this turned out well for me last time? Oh yeah, I did that speech that actually turned out well. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. And we can overcome that to be able to recognize that asking the right questions of our brain, it will go back and it will find those answers that we look for. Because we want to recognize that we want to learn how to navigate through those thought patterns that we have. And we also want to recognize that we can lead our thoughts versus our thoughts leading us. So just to recap, we've kind of talked a little bit about that negativity bias that's inherent. It's there to protect us and to keep us safe. The power of the pause. You can take that time out. And then third is feel the feeling always. Always say, this is how I'm feeling. The minute you do that, you give it that recognition it's looking for, because your brain is there to help. And then secondly, question the thought. How much truth is to the thought that I'm having right now, right? How much truth is really there? And ask the next question. So as the series goes on, I'll be talking about and getting into a deeper dive in some of those areas for us to be able to recognize and see that power of our words and that internal dialogue that happens between our ears and behind our eyes. Because in reality, that is where the truth lies. And we want to be able to see that. And we want to be able to use that to be on our own side in all circumstances, to be able to give ourselves that grace. So that is my story. And if you haven't noticed, I talked about water and swimming because I'm from Fort Lauderdale and I'm a huge fan of swimming. And if you are looking for a good show to watch, on Netflix, I believe it's on Netflix, is the story of Nyad, Diane Nyad. Phenomenal story of a woman who would not give up on meeting her goal and seeing failure as feedback. What did you think of today's podcast, Kathleen?
Absolutely excellent. And I can vouch for that movie because actually my husband and I had watched it. And I think what she has overcome and done and presented to the world, the fear of the unknown, but yet she went and challenged herself and did it. So that's, bravo to her. Definitely a much watch. And I absolutely love the water and the cleansing idea too, Anne. Great information.
Yeah, it is. I actually saw a great saying the other day, and it said, you have three choices: give in, give up, or give it all you got. And I thought that was a great saying.
What an inspiration. Yeah, I like that too. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I look forward to joining you again.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful day. And as Anne says, she is such an inspiration. Everybody's an inspiration, including Anne Canfield, one of our sponsors here on the Chill Factor Radio. We will see you and hear you again on Wednesdays. But if you've missed the episodes, you can head over to the podcast that we have directly. The links are up on the chillfactor.net radio. Many different things going on as always. But Anne, she is just wonderful. Go check out what she's got going on. Thanks, Anne.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.